The day you become afraid to ask questions, democracy has already changed. Let me ask you a dangerous question. When does a democracy stop feeling like a democracy? Not when elections are cancelled, not when parliament stops functioning, not even when the constitution is amended. It happens the day an ordinary citizen asks himself, if I speak, what will happen to me? That is the moment democracy begins to lose. Not its constitution, but its confidence. Read the constitution carefully. It does not begin with, we the government. It begins with, we the people. That means the government is not the owner of the republic. It is its trustee. The constitution gave governments power. It gave citizens something even more powerful, the right to question that power. The day questioning becomes suspicious. The republic begins moving away from its constitutional promise. Look around. Students whose future was shattered by repeated NEET paper leaks demanded accountability. Were they asking for a favor? No. They were demanding constitutional accountability. People opposing the Ken Betwa project sat on funeral pyres. Think about that. A citizen has to sit on his own symbolic funeral pyre before the state hears him. Ask yourself, has democracy failed before the project even begins? In Hesdeurin, tribal communities are fighting for forests they have protected for generations. In Uttarakhand, citizens are embracing trees once again because they fear development has become synonymous with deforestation. In Manipur, thousands still wait for justice, accountability, and the equal protection that the Constitution promises every citizen. Different issues, different states, different governments, but exactly the same constitutional question. Why are citizens increasingly forced to protest simply to be heard? When did dialogue become the last option instead of the first? The greatest misconception about democracy is this: people think democracy dies when governments become too powerful. History says otherwise. Democracy begins to die when citizens become too fearful, when journalists hesitate, when students hesitate, when professors hesitate, when lawyers hesitate, when ordinary citizens hesitate. Governments no longer need to silence society. Society begins silencing itself. That is the most sophisticated form of constitutional decline. The Constitution never promised you a government that would never make mistakes. It promised you the freedom to point them out. Because criticism is not a defect in democracy. It is democracy's quality control mechanism. Never forget this. A government should fear losing the confidence of its citizens. Citizens should never fear asking questions of their government. The day fear changes sides, the Constitution has not failed. We have failed the Constitution. And remember, the greatest threat to liberty is not censorship. It is a nation where millions still have the right to speak, but silently decide that it is safer not to. That is how democracies stop feeling like democracies, long before they stop calling themselves one.